Okay, so now let's go to the 5th chapter entitled Karma Yoga, Action and Krishna Consciousness. Text number 6.
Of five numbers, 5 number 6, is it?
Yeah, 5.6. So look on the top inner corners.
Yep.
Top inner corner until you find 5.6. Yep. So we've been talking the last few verses. Krishna speaking in answer to a question from Arjuna about, it seems like on one hand, Krishna, you're telling me to renounce work, but on the other hand, you're telling me to work in devotion. So what's going on? It seems like contradictory. So Krishna's been telling Arjuna that they both lead to the same result, which is renouncing work. And when someone renounces work, mainly means they're engaging in philosophical research. So they are really into working with their brain, working with the mind and the intellect. So that they renounce or sort of external bodily activities, and more on the mental platform, and thinking a lot, philosophizing, researching, studying, like that, and trying to find out what the source of everything is, what the origin of everything is, what's the ultimate truth, the absolute truth. So this is sort of the research of what Krishna calls here Sankhya yoga, or Sankhya philosophy, which is pretty much the same as when we read about Jnana yoga. So Jnana refers to knowledge. So it's that linking process to try to link with the Supreme through philosophical research. So it's pretty much Sankhya. When it talks about Sankhya or Jnana, it's pretty much alternative words for the same process, which is all about our own endeavor. You're trying to connect with the ultimate truth by your own endeavor, by my brain, by my intelligence and my brain, my mind. I'm going to try to understand what the absolute truth is, the ultimate reality. I'm going to try to get out of this world, get free from suffering, by using my intellect and researching and trying to study like that. So that's what Sankhya or Jnana is. And Bhakti is more about, you've realized what the absolute truth is. It's Krishna, is the Supreme Person of Godhead. And of course, Krishna has the Brahman feature, the all-pervading energy, and the Paramatma, the super soul. So when you realize Krishna, automatically you realize the super soul, Paramatma, and you realize the Brahman. So you've realized all these different 3 aspects of the absolute truth, and you're directly serving. So you're directly serving the absolute truth. Whereas someone that hasn't realized Krishna yet, he hasn't come to the realization of Krishna yet, but is trying to find out. He's trying to find out what is the absolute truth. Trying to find out. And eventually, and Krishna says it's the same. It leads to the same result, because when you research and research and research and research, and you get more knowledge and more knowledge and more knowledge, when your knowledge is full, complete, what will you find out?
Sorry, mate. Can you just reword that question?
When you get more knowledge and more knowledge and more knowledge, over years after years after years of your research and philosophical study and questions and everything like that, and or even many lifetimes, in many cases, you haven't understood the absolute truth by the end of this lifetime by your research. So you take birth again and you research in the next life. So quite often it can be a continuum of life after life of slowly progressing in your spiritual bank account. But at the end of all the research, after you've found out the answers to all your questions and your researching, what will you come to? What is the point you'll come to?
Are you not talking about enlightenment?
Yeah, when you're fully enlightened, trying to be enlightened, but when you actually become enlightened, what will you realize in that enlightened moment? Where does it all stop?
When you don't have rebirth again, do you mean?
Yeah.
Hopefully you realize who you are.
What's that?
Hopefully you come to realize who you are and why you're here and who is God and all lots of things like that, lots of questions.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to chapter 7, text 7. Bob, do you want to read that one?
Yeah. Just start with the English.
Yeah, just English.
One who works in devotion.
No. Chapter 7, text 7.
Oh, sorry.
O conqueror of the wealth.
Yeah, okay, Gulshan, you read it.
O conqueror of wealth, there is no truth superior to me. Everything rests upon me as pearls are strung on a thread.
So there you have it. If you keep your researching, eventually you'll come to this point. That the supreme truth is Krishna. There's nothing more than Krishna. There's no truth. He says there's no truth superior to me. So he's the absolute truth. So eventually through your researching, you come to this point. Or otherwise, if you just by your good fortune, you submissively hear the absolute truth from the spiritual master, the bona fide guru, spiritual master, then he's going to tell you this is the ultimate truth is Krishna. And if you accept that and act on that platform, that Krishna is the supreme truth, and start to serve Krishna, then you're already on the perfect platform, the perfect stage.
Because you've got to be, I mean, you can acquire all sorts of knowledge, but you want to be right too.
Yeah, there's all different kinds of knowledge. There's
You could go like acquiring the wrong sort of knowledge.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what Krishna points out, that the philosophical research path it's a long path. It's a long path, and it can take a long time. But eventually, like Krishna's pointing out here, eventually you'll find the root, as is mentioned in these previous verses, means the source of everything. So, and bhakti yoga is compared to watering the root. So, philosophical research, Sankhya, is compared to finding the root. It means the root, like the root of the tree, is the source of the tree, right? So, you're trying to find out, like people look at the stars at night and wonder, where did the universe come from? Where did it all begin? So that thought of how did it all begin? How did the universe all begin? That's like you're trying to find the root, find the source of all life. What's the beginning of all existence? So you're trying to find that out, and with your brain you're trying to find that out. So that's one way. Or the other alternative is as someone that knows what the ultimate truth is, what's the root of everything, the source of everything, just tells you, okay, Gulshan, okay, Bhakti Mala, okay, Bob, okay, Josh, the source of everything is Krishna. And then it's just up to you whether you're going to accept that and then surrender to that and start to water the root and do service like that, bhakti, or you might not accept it. And that's your choice. I mean, the free choice is there. But ultimately, it's going to bring us to the same point. Whether you take the slow road or the direct road, the roundabout road, that's up to us. So that's what Krishna's been talking about, that ultimately it's the same. There's no disagreement at the final point. There's only one absolute truth. That's why it means absolute. Absolute means only one. It's an entirety. There's nothing other than that. Like in the material world, everything's relative. Everything's relative. What may be true for me is not true for you. What makes you happy might make me very unhappy. And vice versa. So it's all relative truths. absolute truth at the final point. Okay, so let's continue what Krishna has to say. He's going to say one more thing about this subject in this verse. So let's read the Sanskrit. Sanyasastu mahabaho apnoti ayogata yoga yukto muni brahma nacharena rigachati. Let's do once more. Sanyasastu mahabaho dukkam aptu mayogata yoga yukto muni brahma nacharena rigachati. Okay, Bob, you're going to read the English, please.
Merely renouncing all activities, yet not engaging in the devotional service of the Lord, cannot make one happy. But a thoughtful person engaged in devotional service can achieve the supreme without delay.
Okay, so here's some more on the two processes. So the Sankhya path involves renouncing, which means detaching or giving up your activities. So the bodily activities are given up. That's part of the Sankhya path. And then they're mainly working with their mind and intelligence. But with their body, they've stopped their external bodily activities, working for sense gratification. That's been given up. So all activities for your sense gratification, bodily enjoyment, material comfort has been given up, and mainly engaged in philosophical research. So what Krishna's saying here, that although yes, it will bring you to the same result eventually as what bhakti is going to bring you, but if you follow this path, it's not going to make you happy. Just philosophizing is not going to make you happy. Why would that be? Any idea?
Because bhakti is where the, where that relationship comes in, and you get that reciprocation as well.
Yeah, it's very important, talking about relationships, because these people that follow the Sankhya path, renouncing all activities, so it means basically they've cut off from all their material relationships. They've cut off from all their material relationships. Why did they cut off from the material relationships? Cutting off from, renouncing all activities. So it basically means, you're renounced or you're detached from all your relationships with things in the material world. It means material objects and people also. So they've renounced all of that association with the material world. So why would they do that? Why would they give up renounce their friends and their work and their relationship with their boss and maybe even family members and activities which are getting them money and all these kind of things? Why would they give up all that?
You're talking about that they can't see the sense in going on, or you're talking about so they can concentrate more on Krishna?
Well, at this point, they don't know about Krishna.
Oh, okay.
But why would they give up material activities and material relationships?
Because it's never end. It's no conclusion. They endless. It's no satisfaction, because one
No
after the
satisfaction.
other.
Yep, that's a good point.
And it's like a.
Well, I mean, it's not endless. It's not endless. everything has an end.
But
that's one of the temporary. All the activities that we do in this and relationships that we have with things and people, they're all temporary. But yeah, it's endless in the sense that it doesn't matter how much you work in the material world, you never get satisfied by the activities, and in that way it's endless. You never You never reach a point where you feel I'm completely satisfied.
In the material activity, you're looking for a fruitive action.
Yeah, and no amount of fruits make us happy.
No.
It doesn't matter how much money we have, we always want more. It doesn't matter how nice a house you have or a car or a phone or whatever, you always want another one. Yeah. Like someone buys the latest iPhone or whatever,
within 6 months a new model comes up.
Yeah, as soon as 6 months the new model comes out, you want to get the next one. What is there anything wrong with the one you have? No, but you're not satisfied and you want the next one. So like that, it's never ending. In that way, it's endless. We're never satisfied, never happy. So someone with a brain realizes this is ridiculous. This is completely ridiculous. I'm just becoming so frustrated.
Kind of a dog chasing the tail.
Just like the donkey running after a carrot.
The donkey chasing the tail.
Yeah, always the dog chasing the tail. It's just going round and round. Yeah. This is ridiculous. So someone realized, hang on, just stop it. I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm pulling out of this. I'm pulling out of the rat race. No more in the rat race. This, eat, drink, and be merry, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. It doesn't work. I've tried it. It doesn't make me happy. I'm pulling out of this. Stop right now. Stop. So they stop all that sort of so-called normal fruitive life of running after bodily pleasures and enjoyment and stuff like that.
No more Gloria jeans.
No more Gloria jeans. Enough. The coffee's just giving me a headache, and like that. And I've become an addict. And the worst one, like the guy came and told me yesterday. Came here, visited here. He said this drug called P is just ruining Northland, where we are, is just completely overrun by people on this drug called P, and really? It's just ruining people's lives. And
is it worse than ice, mate? Is it?
I don't know, but it's pretty bad, and it makes people. He told me where it all started. It was invented by the Germans in World War II to make these super soldiers that were fearless.
Oh, is this where they feel no pain?
They feel no pain, and they've got no fear. And but it makes them like depressed.
They were making that killing machines.
Yeah, killing machines. So now that's let loose in society, not just the soldiers. And we've got all these crazy people wandering around, and they steal and do all kind of crazy things. So anyway, it's like creating chaos. So like that, people realize this is not getting anywhere. This is just ridiculous. I've had enough of this kind of society. And they just pull out of it and think, well, there must be something more to life than just this kind of stuff, taking drugs and stealing and eating and all this kind of stuff, and just ending up completely depressed and morose. So, people searching for some alternative, so they renounce all their activities.
And this is what this fellow did that you met yesterday as he looked.
He wasn't doing it, but he was renting out one of his properties. And he found out that the guy that's renting is on this stuff, and he didn't want that. Obviously, someone living on his land that's doing this stuff, and so it's like a can of worms for him. So he was telling me it's a real big problem, and we have the alternatives, just like Prabhupada, had the alternatives back in the 60s and 70s for the hippies. That had also given up on society and rejected everything, and they were just ending up having sex and drugs, looking for happiness. But even the sex and drugs didn't make them happy. They rejected the materialistic life of their parents, who were into just working like an ass, making lots of money and never satisfied. So they rejected that life. But they rejected that, and what did they fill it up with instead? Just sex and drugs, which hallucinogenics, right? So, and that didn't make them happy either. So it's the same here. These people have rejected materialistic life and to get into a more philosophical life and understanding who am I and why am I here and why are we suffering? What's the solution? And trying to work it out like that. But as Krishna's saying here, that also cannot make them happy. Why is that? Materialistic life doesn't make us happy. Giving up materialistic life doesn't make us happy. So, oh my God, where do I go? If I become a materialist, I'm not going to be happy. Everyone knows that. It's so frustrating and you're never satisfied. But if I give it up also, if I give up materialistic life, Chris is saying I'm also not going to be happy. So why? So then why is that?
Because the thing is, when he gives something, like give up something, he has to have something to attach to. Like, he give up that.
Yeah.
If he attached to Krishna consciousness or a lotus feet of Krishna, then because he's giving and then he's waiting. It's like you have to be one string loose and another string you have to hold on to it. That's where the transfer.
Yeah. We detaching from material life, we have to attach to something better. If you give up the P, you have to fill in the void.
That's what I did. That I give up a tea, but I'm drinking a yogi tea now. So,
like for me, if I said to someone, stop eating meat, meat's bad for you, stop eating meat, is that enough to just say that?
No, you have to give that, like, the reason or things like, something you got to be attracted to Prashadam, and then you lose that and get that.
Yeah, I mean, they can't just not eat.
No.
If you tell them one kind of food,
it happens slowly.
Then you have to give them some better kind of food to eat. So like that. So if you're going to stop in material relationships, then you need to develop spiritual relationships, because it's the nature of the soul to have loving relationships. The essential need of the soul is love. We're like, we want to give love and want to receive love. That's the very nature of this loving propensity, to give love. And Prabhupada's explained that love means service, because if you really love someone, then you naturally you're going to want to serve them. Without service, love has no meaning. Love is a verb, it's a doing word. If you love someone, you'll do something for them. It's not a noun, it's not a naming word. Like if you just say to your partner, I love you, and that's all you do, that's as far as the relationship goes, the partner's not going to be very happy. They say, where's the flowers? You never take me anywhere. You never give me any flowers. You never cook for me. You never, do anything. So they're not going to be very satisfied. They like to say, that actions speak louder than words, isn't it? You know that one, right? Actions speak louder than words. So if you have a feeling for someone, you're going to want to do something for them. So that's the.
No, you keep going. Sorry,
Keep going?
Yeah.
If you want to say, if you have a question or whatever, comment, please say.
Is also the difference with the Sankhya and the Yana, because bhakti requires some sort of faith as well, and if they're just going from the mind and the intelligence and not from the heart, is it because that requires some sort of faith as well to believe? You have to believe that Krishna is the absolute truth. Like someone could tell you, but you have to have that faith as well. Is that involved in the difference between the two types of yoga, or not really?
Yeah, to take the bhakti yoga means, yes, you have faith in the authority of the spiritual master, of the guru. So there is faith and authority. So another person, like Sankhya philosopher, may not have faith in that authority, in the guru, the spiritual master. So therefore doesn't take to it. They don't have faith in that authority. And yet they have faith also. What do they have faith in? What does the Sankhya yoga or yogi or Jnana yogi, what do they place their faith in? Because everyone has faith. It's not a matter of do you have faith or don't you have faith. It's just a matter of where are you placing your faith? Where do you put it? I mean, no one gets out of bed in the morning unless you have faith that my day is going to be better if I get out of bed than if I stay in the
They
bed.
may be faith themselves.
Yes. What part of themselves especially?
Mind.
Yes, because the Sankhya philosophers working with their mind and intellect. So they are placing more, they have more faith in my mind, and with my intelligence and my mind, I will figure everything out. So that they're attached, their attachment is to their own mind and intellect. That is their attachment. That they're attached to working with their mind and intellect.
Then they have to really work
They have
hard,
more
because they have
faith
to
in
do.
that than if another person external to them, say a guru, comes into their life and says, I'll just simplify everything for you. You don't have to figure everything out slowly. I'll just tell you everything right now, that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and you're his eternal servant, and that you're going to be eternally happy by serving him. But they're not prepared to accept that. They don't have faith in the words of the spiritual
Then
master.
it's harder for them, because they have to do everything yourself. Like if we believe in Krishna, then it's like we are very light as feather. If you have to do everything yourself, it's gonna be very, you be like carrying too much. A to Z means we done A to X or Y, like by Krishna. One or two, we got that we can do that. But if you have to do from A all the way to Z by yourself, you gotta get tired, man.
Yeah, it's a difficult
No
process.
chance.
It's like, okay, you want to figure out how a car is built, right? What are you gonna use your brain to figure out how the Mercedes bends how it works, or what's another alternative?
We just trust the company and
Why
just go there.
Just talk to the manufacturer.
Yes.
Just talk to the goddamn manufacturer, and
Yeah.
he's just going to tell you, how many parts there are, and what the carburetor does, and the igniting the thing, and the ignition, and everything like that, and the petrol, and what fuel, and everything like that. Or otherwise, no, I don't want to listen to the manufacturer. I'm going to figure it out myself. Okay, good luck.
No chance.
Come back in 50 years, and
Yeah.
you'll find out something. So otherwise you can just take all the facts from the manufacturer, the person who made it. So, that's what we're doing here. We're hearing Bhagavad Gita. This is the words of God, the person that created the universe. He can just tell you, I made it like this. This is how I made you. This is what you're for. This is what the universe is for. This is what your role is. And you can either take that or not, and that's up to you. But if you don't want to read the manufacturer's guide, the manual, and you want to figure it out, like I put together a bed today. I got two choices. It came with a little instruction book. It was only a bed, so it wasn't a very big one. So I can look at that, or I can not look at the instructions and just try to figure it out. Okay, it's got 50 parts, and I just figure out what part goes where. I could have done that, but I wanted just to do it real quick. So I just looked at the instructions, and it said step 1, put this part 1 with part 2, and step 2, put part 3 with part 9 and 4, and do it like that. So it's just the easy way. So it's up to you.
That funny thing, I tell you that me and Brett, we try to do even instruction, someone's bed, and we can even do it. Why are you laughing?
My bed.
Bhakti Mala's bed with the instruction. We are hopeless Indian and Aussie both.
Even the instructions aren't that good, I don't think.
It's okay, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, many times, we're like rebels, we're not following instructions, and that's because many lifetimes we've been rebellious and not wanting to follow authority. And it's understandable why we don't want to follow authority. What could be a possible cause why we reject an authority like a guru?
Ego.
Ego's there. Yeah, we're very proud. Yep. Well, what's another reason?
Ignorance.
Ignorance. Yes. Another reason. Why do we tend? Why might we reject a very good authority? I mean, of course, we don't know that they're a very good authority unless you followed them for some time. But why would we be averse to following authorities? Maybe because we've followed some pretty bad authorities in the past, and they've put us through the ringer, right? They've
Bad
exploited
experience.
us. Has anyone ever been exploited before by a person in an authority position? Like
No.
like a politician, like a parent, like a teacher, like a boss? Has anyone ever been abused or exploited before by an authority person in an authority position? So what does that tend to do? It tends to make us, I'm not going anywhere near someone that's acting like an authority. That's like telling me what to do and like that. So you can understand why it's like a fear people have of anyone in an authority position, whether even like God is the authority. They're afraid of God, and angry because so many authorities they've followed have been, really rotten authorities, so and have hurt them, so they're really angry at authority. So either very fearful of authority or very angry at authority,
Maybe
or
the
both.
bad experience.
Yeah, due to past bad experiences. So it's understandable, especially in Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga is like, Kali Yuga means the age of quarrel and hypocrisy. So hypocrites, right?
Especially when
so many hypocrites.
Comes from the church, like all the people that get abused by priests and things like that, and they turn away from God because they get, disillusioned by everything.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so they're going to be very careful before they place their faith again next time. Once you've been cheated once or twice or 10 times, you'll be thinking 10 times before you believe in anything. So it's understandable. We understand why people have a hard time having faith in the Vedic authority and the spiritual master, because they've had so many bad experiences. But also, if you do have a bad experience, say like I take my car to a mechanic, to fix the car, and he makes the car more worse, then what will I do? Will I not go to another mechanic again?
You will, but you'll do a lot of research.
Yeah, I'll be more careful about, I'll research about where's a good mechanic. Maybe I might ask people, hey mate, where do you take your car to? What's a good mechanic around here? And I did that because I'm new to Northland. So I asked the locals, who's a good mechanic? And like that. So I'm not going to give up and say, I went to a terrible mechanic, he wrecked my car, I'm never going to take my car to a mechanic ever again. But then what's the alternative? You're always going to have a broken car, so that's not a good choice. You don't give up. You just look for a good one. So, you've had bad authorities in your life. Okay, we understand that. That's understandable. But don't give up with having some guidance. Don't never take a guide again. Never have a superior person in your life again. No, you just try to find a good one. You make sure you find a good authority. And that's, Krishna spends so much time in the Bhagavad Gita showing us who's the perfect authority. What's the symptoms? What are the symptoms of a guru, a spiritual master? What are the qualifications of a guru, a spiritual master? So select the proper person. Don't select another nutcase. Select a proper person. Find out, what does it mean to be a guru, a spiritual master? What are the characteristics, the qualifications, the symptoms like that? And then you won't make a mistake, and then you won't get stuffed up like that. And also you got to find out what are the qualifications of a disciple, because that's what you're supposed to be. You got to find out, what does it mean to be a disciple? Okay, the guy's giving me an instruction, the person's giving an instruction, I have to follow that. Otherwise it doesn't have any meaning. The relationship doesn't have any meaning. You got to follow that. It's like if you go along to a doctor and he gives you instructions, take this medicine 3 times a day, 2 pills 3 times a day. If you don't follow it, then does that relationship have any value?
No matter how good the doctor is, it's not going to work.
He could be the best doctor in Australia or the world. But if you don't follow his instructions, you just wasted his time and you wasted yours. And you're not going to get any benefit. And you wasted his time. So that's also important for a disciple. If you have a relationship with a spiritual master, you should follow his instructions. And then you'll get some results out of that. If you don't follow the instructions, you're not going to get any good result. And if you don't try, at least try, how are you going to know whether it was good instructions or not? You have to try. Of course, if it doesn't work after following instructions, you can go back to him and say, hey, Guruji, I did what you said and I'm more worse than before. What's going on? You know, and then he has to work it out like that. You know, he has to work it out. Actually, that reminds me, one time a disciple raised his hand to Prabhupada's Guru, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, and said, Guru Maharaj, I've been observing that so many disciples have been following the process for so many years, rising early in the morning, attending the morning meditation and chanting japa and so many things, listening to classes and everything, but they don't seem to be progressing. Why is that? How is that possible? They're following the process, but it doesn't seem to be progressing very much. And what did the Guru say? He said they have intestinal worms. Profound, huh? Have you figured out what that means? If you eat the best food, you know, food cooked in ghee, clarified butter, with paneer and wholemeal flour and nice vegetables and organic.
Don't say that's on the Ekadashi, please. Today's Ekadashi.
Yeah. But if you have a big worm in your guts, how much benefit of that food are you going to get? Do you know?
Oh, zero.
Zero. Because the worm's eating it all. So the same thing, if you're carrying, if you maintain these horrible big material desires in your heart to be, you know, live happily ever after in the material world, and you still think you're the body, you can enjoy the body and everything like that, if you maintain those desires in your heart, lust and greed and envy and pride and so many things, if you maintain those desires in your heart, they're like worms. They're like worms, and they're gonna gobble up all the good things you're doing, all the chanting you're doing, all the prasadam you're eating, all the soul searching Saturday classes you listen to, everything is all going to get gobbled up. So like that, you need to, just like if you want to get your health back together, and you've got worms, what's the first thing you have to do?
Just kill the worms first.
You have to get rid of the worms. You have to kick them out of the body. In India, I got giardia. Giardia means tiny, tiny worms, and a whole heap of them. Like, they're not big ones. I mean, you can get big worms too, like that are as longer than you are inside you. But you can get small ones too that you can't even see with your eye. But a whole heap of them. So I had this giardia that I picked up from some contaminated food, and I was wondering why, although I'm eating, but you know, things are not going very well. So, and that's what eventually found out it was. So I worked really hard to find out how to get rid of them. I took antibiotics and they didn't go. I took this, herbal thing, they didn't go. And finally I got some stuff and got rid of them. I got rid of them. And then only after I got rid of them, when I was eating, then I could digest the food, and my health was getting good and everything. Before that, doesn't matter what good things I ate and everything, but nothing was working. Nothing was helping me. So like that, you know, you have to, I mean, it's good to follow some instructions of the spiritual master, but you have to follow all of them to get the best benefit, So that's food for thought. Yeah, so we have authority issues, and so some people like that can't take to bhakti straight away. They're not ready to accept an authority, or there's so many reasons. They're afraid of there being a God, anything like that. They're angry because of, you know, so many cheaters have, in the name of God, have done so many terrible things. So there's a lot of obstacles there. And some of those obstacles are explained in the 4th chapter, text 10. 4th chapter, text 10. Vitaraga bhaya krodha manmaya mam upashrita bhava jnana tapasa putamad bhavam agata. that one of the obstacles why people can't take to devotional service or bhakti is mentioned there is attachment. They're too attached. They're still thinking that they can be happy in the material world. So that's called raga, attachment. And then vitaraga, bhaya. So due to fear, because of fear of a spiritual existence. Some people suffer so much in this life, it's a fearful thing to think that there's another life after this one. Oh, this life has been so terrible. You mean that life continues after this one? Oh my God. And so they don't want to know that the soul is eternal, that life goes on after this life. They think it's going to be more of the same. Of course, it doesn't have to be, but they've got such a bad experience, they just want to end it. And often people like that commit suicide and so forth. They just want the misery to end. But unfortunately, just killing the body doesn't stop the misery, because whether you like it or not, the soul does live on after the death of this body. But some people are so fearful like that. And then krodha means anger. So like I said, people have been cheated and exploited by so many bad authorities, so they're angry against any kind of authority, so they don't take to it. So there's a few obstacles there to people taking to bhakti. So some people will take to this philosophical path, and I have faith in myself. I don't have faith in any gurus or anything, but I have faith in my mind can work everything out. So they take to that path. So that's one path there. But Krishna is saying there, but that's not going to make one happy, because then you've given up your negative relationships, but you don't have any positive relationships to replace it with. So that kind of life is very dry. And that's mentioned about the effects of this path of Jnana Yoga or Sankhya, is in 12th chapter, text 5, talks about the difficulties of this path. And there's no happiness. It's very miserable following this path. 12th chapter, text 5. Klesho dehikaraste sam avyakta sakta chetasam avyakta hi gatir dukam dehavabir avyakpite. That's very difficult. And normally on this philosophical path, what realization from your mind will you come to? That the supreme truth is
that
you think with your mind you're going to figure out that the supreme truth is a blue boy with a flute? No way. You're never going to figure that out. What are you going to figure out? You're going to figure out that the ultimate truth is all-pervading light. All-pervading light. That's as good as you're going to get from your own intellect. With your own intellect, the best realization you're going to get is that the supreme truth is all-pervading energy, and all-pervading energy, formless, and that's what it talks about in this 12th chapter, text 5. That is unmanifested, means you can't see it. You can't see the supreme. For those whose minds are attached to the unmanifested, impersonal feature of the supreme, advancement is very troublesome. To make progress in that discipline is always difficult for those that are embodied. So that's what we call Brahman. Remember when we talk about God or the supreme truth, we're talking about three things. There's three aspects. You're talking about Brahman, the all-pervading, unmanifest, impersonal aspect. You're talking about Paramatma, that's the super soul, God in the heart of every living thing. And you're talking about Bhagavan, the supreme person, Krishna, who's playing the flute and living in the spiritual world and herding cows and so forth, dancing with the cowherd girls and like that. So there's three aspects. So with your own intellect, as far as you're going to be able to reach with your own mind and intellect is the Brahman. To try to, you can just glimpse that the ultimate reality is this all-pervading light. And you'll notice a lot of people, if they're spiritual people, and they call themselves spiritualists or transcendentalists, they'll be probably, I guarantee, 99.9% of these spiritualists, all they're talking about is the absolute, is the supreme, is this light, this energy, this all-pervading energy. Have you heard people talk about that before?
Yep.
They talk about energy.
Sure have.
Yeah, just light, energy. They don't talk about, there's no form, no body, no form, just light and energy. So that's these people that they're just philosophers and speculators. Prabhupada will, notice, talk a lot about mental speculation. So this is what he's talking about. With our mental speculation, we're thinking with our brain, our mind, we're speculating. That's the maximum ceiling we're going to reach to, is that there's just this ultimate energy, the light that's everywhere, like that. And that is one aspect of the Supreme. We don't deny that. But just focusing on that, as mentioned in the 12th chapter there, and also mentioned here, does not make one happy. And it mentions in the 12th chapter, it's very troublesome. It's very difficult. And it's mentioned difficult for those that are embodied, because you have a form. You have a form, but now you're directing your life and your realization towards something that doesn't have a form. Now, how are you going to relate to that? How are you going to meditate on something that doesn't have a form? How are you going to worship something that doesn't have a form? How are you going to love something that doesn't have a form? Can you love light? Love energy? I mean, maybe, but it's not very deep. It doesn't go very far.
It's the same
Can
thing
you have
as
a relationship? Can you have a relationship with light? Can you have a relationship with energy? That's like can you have a relationship with air? That's everywhere.
Right? It's the same as someone go and learn the archery. They just say that, okay, just shoot in the sky. They have to have a target.
You have to have it. Yeah, you need a form. You need to direct your senses to a form. I mean, we have a body, we have senses. You want to be able to touch something. You want to be able to see something. You want to be able to taste something. You want to be able to smell something. You want to be able to hear something. But how are you going to realize something that you can't hear? You can't see. You can't smell. You can't taste. You can't touch. Good luck in your realization. It's really hard, to fix your mind on something that you can't see, you can't taste, you can't touch, you can't hear, you can't smell. How are you going to fix your mind on that? That's hard. So that's why it's saying it's a very difficult path. It's not going to make you happy. And it's very troublesome. It's a lot of trouble in that path. And also another thing, it's very dry, because there's no relationships. So it's very dry. Your heart becomes just, you're yearning for loving relationships, and you're not going to get it from that kind of path. So it's very dry, just discussing philosophy. That's all there is to your life. I think it's like this. Maybe it's like this. It could be like that. Just discussing philosophy. It's just kind of dry after a while. Even you probably couldn't listen to me all day long, because eventually it'll get a bit dry. Just discussing philosophy.
Mataji's here.
Yeah, Jayanti's there. She'll say that. But actually, bhakti philosophy is not dry, because we're talking about all this very sweet, tasteful relationships we can have with the Supreme. So it's different. But these philosophers will not be talking about any loving pastimes of Krishna with his devotees, like Arjuna here. How loving is this relationship we're hearing in the Bhagavad Gita with Krishna and Arjuna? Arjuna's in such a distressed state, and Krishna is so kind, to come with him there on the battlefield, even though he's not going to fight, and just to try to help Arjuna get through this difficult situation. And he does. And such a loving friend Krishna is. So that really touches the heart. Really touches the heart. Yeah. So the other point mentioned here, so this impersonal path of Sankhya philosophy is doesn't make one happy, but also it's mentioned on the other side. But the Bhakti Yoga path will achieve the Supreme without delay. So that's a negative point on the Sankhya path, that's a negative point, is that it can't make one happy. On the ultimate point, Krishna has said that eventually you'll reach the same result through Sankhya as you would Bhakti. Because eventually you'll come to some realization of the Supreme and eventually realize Krishna. But on the positive side with Bhakti, with the Bhakti path, is that you'll very quickly achieve the Supreme without delay. Na charena in the verse means without delay. Na charena. Charena means a very long time, but you put na in front of it, means not very long time, means very short time. You'll achieve the Supreme in a very short time. So those are some different characteristics there of the two paths, two processes. One is a very slow process and it doesn't make one very happy. It's very difficult. And the other one is very fast. You'll achieve results. You'll achieve results very fast and connect with the Supreme very quickly. Anyone want to say anything about that so far, what we've talked about? I was just hearing a class where Prabhupada was talking about his spiritual master. It was on the disappearance day of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati in 1973, I think it was. He was talking about his spiritual master. And Prabhupada was in ecstasy. He was just so much ecstasy talking about his spiritual master. So much love. You could hear the love he has for his spiritual master. At one point, he just started crying. And why was he crying? It was interesting. He said, my spiritual master has sent all of you. He's talking to his disciples in the room, all those hippies that, mainly hippies that have become, Hare Krishnas. He said, my spiritual master has sent all of you to help me to carry out his instructions. So I am very indebted to all of you, and like that. And he just started crying. He was just in so much ecstasy and so much love. So that's something you're never going to get that on a philosophical path, just by your thinking and intellect and everything. You're never going to taste that nectar, that ecstasy of the loving relationships that a devotee has with other devotees or with the Lord or both. It's just nectar. And you can just imagine all the devotees in the room just in ecstasy, just seeing Prabhupada. And just the love that we know the disciple, should love the spiritual master. But in that conversation, you realize how much the spiritual master loves his disciples. And he actually said, you are all my spiritual masters. How could he think like that? Because he's thinking that his spiritual master has sent them to help him. So these are all sent by his guru. So they're on the same level as his guru. He's seen like that. That these, my disciples have been sent by my guru. So they're on the same level as my guru. So just imagine, amazing consciousness and just so much gratitude and appreciation and happiness. And he's just crying and feeling so grateful and so happy. Amazing. On the Bhakti path, what one can be experiencing. Okay. So, Bhakti Mala, do you want to start?
There are two classes of sannyasis, or persons in the renounced order of life. The Mayavadi sannyasis are engaged in the study of Sankhya philosophy, whereas Vaishnava sannyasis are engaged in the study of Bhagavatam philosophy, which affords the proper commentary on the Vedanta Sutras?
Okay, so the sannyasis means they've renounced all material activities. So that's what it's talked about, that Sankhya Yoga. For the Sankhya path, they're renouncing all the material activities. So there's sannyasis. Sannyasis are the renunciates. So Prabhupada's saying there's two kinds of renunciates. And so one is these ones that practice Sankhya, so philosophy, and they're called Mayavadis sannyasis, Mayavadis. Sannyas means renouncing or detached from material life, but the word Mayavadi is put in front. So Mayavadi, see, Maya means illusion. It means energy. It means energy, but it also means illusion, illusory energy. So why are they called Mayavadis? Followers. That their philosophy is illusion. So what's the illusion? They say, these Mayavadis say that Krishna is Maya. Krishna is illusion. He's not real. That Krishna is just he just temporarily appeared in the material world, and his body is made of matter, is illusory. And they say Krishna is Maya, Krishna is illusion, and they say that Krishna's devotees, the bhaktas, bhakta means devotees, so Krishna's bhaktas, devotees, they're also illusion, part of the illusion. They're also just temporary, illusory persons. And they say that the process of loving Krishna, bhakti yoga, they say bhakti yoga is also an illusion, Maya. So Krishna is Maya according to them, and the devotees are Maya, and the process of serving Krishna or bhakti is Maya. So that's why they're called Mayavadis. So all that's Maya. So what's the truth? The truth is called Satya, is the truth. So what is the truth? Only one truth according to them, and that's Brahman. So they say Brahman Satyam. Brahman Satyam. That the all-pervading energy is truth. That's the truth. And everything else is Maya. So according to them, anything coming into this material world with a form is Maya. And the only thing that's real is the all-pervading impersonal spiritual light. So that's the basis in a nutshell of the Mayavadi philosophy. And they spend their time getting together and philosophizing about Brahman, which I said is a very dry and difficult path. So they study the Vedanta philosophy. So Vedanta is actually the essence of the Vedas is called Vedanta. The conclusion of the Vedas is called the Vedanta. So, and sutra means very short verses. So these are very short verses. Like I'll give you a couple examples. One is Janmadya Yasya Yataha. That's it. That's the whole verse. It means a sutra. It's very short. Janmadya Yasya Taha. Like these verses, it's got 4 lines. There's quite a lot of information there. But the sutra is a very real nutshell, knowledge in a nutshell. Another one is Atato Brahma Jijnasa. That's it. That's the whole verse. So they juggle these words around and speculate and interpret these words to mean different things, and they twist the meaning. They twist the meaning of a lot of these verses around to suit their own desires, like that. So mainly they study these Vedanta sutras, and they read a commentary. Normally, this Vedanta Sutras, which was originally written by Vyasadeva, who's an incarnation of Krishna, actually, well, they wouldn't accept that, but has been commented on by many great teachers called acharyas. We have devotees that have commented on Vedanta Sutra. And we actually read one as the main one is commentary. It's Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is a commentary on Vedanta Sutra, written by Vyasadeva himself. So Vyasadeva, after writing Vedanta Sutra, the essence of all the Vedas is Vedanta Sutra, after writing that essence, he's given a commentary on it himself, which is called Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Purana. So that's a commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. So that's the most authorized one because he wrote the Vedanta Sutra. So he knows, he's the best person to know the meaning of the Vedanta Sutra. So we should take his commentary, Srimad Bhagavatam, as the most authentic one. But these Mayavadi sannyasis don't accept that one. And they rather read the commentary from Shankaracharya. So have you all heard of Shankaracharya?
Yes, I do, of course.
Everyone from India will, because he's a very famous great teacher or acharya from India. And he promoted this Mayavadi philosophy. He's the founder of this Mayavadi philosophy, impersonal philosophy. And he came after Buddha. After Buddha, then the next great personality was Shankaracharya. And there's a whole reason why he taught that philosophy. I won't go into all the detail now, but maybe I should say a little bit. He's actually an incarnation of Lord Shiva. So Shiva, Krishna, actually Lord Narayan or Krishna, instructed Lord Shiva to appear in the material world and as a sannyasi and to preach this Mayavadi philosophy. Of course, the Mayavadi followers won't accept that, that he's an incarnation of Lord Shiva, and in coming for the purpose of deluding them, they wouldn't accept that. But that's what Vyasadeva himself has explained, that Shankaracharya is an incarnation of Lord Shiva, and he was instructed by Lord Krishna to mislead these persons with impersonalist tendencies and the people that were envious of Krishna, and to promote this philosophy. Actually, it's a long process the Lord has to try to bring the souls who are all rebellious to serving the Supreme, loving the Supreme, and trying to imitate the Supreme, trying to be God. So bringing the souls from that point of being anti-Krishna, anti-God, to bring them to the point where they come back to loving God, that's a long way, so how to bridge that gap. So the first part in bridging that gap of these, materialistic, super materialistic souls, which at the time when Buddha appeared 2,500 years ago, they were fully engaged in slaughtering animals or drinking liquor and so forth, and violence and so forth. So the Lord himself appeared, he incarnated as Buddha. Now, of course, Buddhists wouldn't accept that, that Buddha is an incarnation of Krishna also. But anyway, according to Vedic philosophy, Buddha is an incarnation. He's mentioned as one of the 10 avatars, one of the 10 main incarnations given by the great poet Jayadev Goswami, puts Buddha in there as one of the 10 main incarnations of Vishnu. So the Lord's first plan to bring the materialistic rebellious souls back to him is to make them a little bit of a gentle person, a gentleman, a good person, because you can't turn a wicked into a spiritual person. You can step from being a good person to a spiritual person, but you can't step from being a wicked person to a spiritual person. So you have to bring people slowly. First of all, make the wicked person a good person, and then the good person a spiritual person, slowly. So his first plan was to get them to stop being so violent. So Buddha's main philosophy, main preaching was ahimsa. You all heard the word ahimsa? Ahimsa means quite popular these days. It means non-violence. So that was the main teaching of Buddha, and hopefully modern day Buddhists still teach it, although I'm a bit doubtful. In some cases it doesn't seem like it.
Some Buddhists in the Vietnam, they eat that all, because I visited one of them, and then I said that a vegetarian. And they're Vietnamese people. He said, no, Buddha in Vietnam, they eat meat. I said, really? But I said, no, I'll prefer vegetarian only. He said, if you follow the Buddhism and all that, you should. I said, no. There are actually some Buddhists, they do eat that.
Yeah, which is a deviation of his original teaching. So a strict Buddhist following Buddha should be non-violent.
Yeah.
That's what he called the paradharma, ahimsa paradharma. That's the topmost religion, according to Buddha, is to be non-violent. So that's what he wanted to get people away from slaughtering animals, because that's a big obstacle on the spiritual path, is being so violent and eating animals and slaughtering them and everything like that. And so Buddha brought people one step closer, but you need to keep going. So, but Buddha, in order to get people to stop killing animals, he had to take people away from the Vedas. Because the Vedas, some parts of the Vedas say you can do animal sacrifices. So people were misusing the Vedas, saying that you could do animal sacrifices and just eating them. So Buddha said the Vedas is a load of rubbish. Basically, that's an exaggeration, but basically he said the Vedas is a load of rubbish. Don't follow the Vedas, follow me.
Because on that time was the time of the atheist.
Yeah, people were atheists and they were misusing the Vedic knowledge, which comes from God. So God himself appeared and said that my knowledge is a load of rubbish. But how could that seems contradictory? You know, that God has created the Vedas, then he comes in another form and says the Vedas is a load of rubbish, don't follow the Vedas, follow me, and just be non-violent, because people were misusing it. So he had to take people away from it. And they followed him, and he's God. They were actually following God. And he was saying there's no God. Buddha was saying there's no God, don't follow God, and all these things, don't do sacrifices to God. Because actually the original animal sacrifices mentioned in the Vedas is not meant for eating the animals. So what they would do, the animal would be killed in the sacrificial arena. And then the priests or the brahmanas would chant Vedic mantras perfectly. And they were very pure. They were very pure priests. They weren't hypocrites like modern day hypocrite priests. They were purely following everything. They were truthful and honest and clean and austere and enthusiastic and everything virtuous and everything like that. So, and when they would chant the mantras, so powerful mantras, the animal would come back to life right in front of their eyes. And everyone in the town is watching. Can you imagine? You're watching a priest chant Vedic mantras, bring the dead animal that's just had his head cut off, bringing him back to life right in front of your eyes. What would you be thinking?
Magic. I don't know.
Would you? How much faith would you have in the Vedic mantras after that?
A lot.
That's a powerful mantra, man. That could bring a dead animal back to life. That's pretty powerful, And also, what would you think about the priests after that?
Oh.
Whoa.
He's the messenger of the God.
This dude is really pure, really powerful. I put my faith in him, So that was actually those animal sacrifices were mentioned in the Vedas only for the purpose of showing the power of the Vedic mantras and the purity of the priests. And people would follow the priests and follow the Vedas. That was the original purpose, why the animal sacrifices are there. But as Kali Yuga came in, what happened is the priests lost their purity. And they couldn't chant the mantras properly anymore. So the animal was killed and it couldn't be brought back to life. And when they couldn't bring it back to life, what did they do with it? They ate it. So then it gradually degraded to just slaughtering animals, a slaughterhouse and eating animals. So therefore, because the Vedas was being misused, the Lord had to come and say, this is a load of rubbish, don't follow the Vedas. You follow me and practice non-violence and give up these animal sacrifices. But then he did a good thing because he stopped people killing animals, but he did a bad thing because he took people away from God. God took people away from God just to make them a decent human being where you weren't a butcher. Okay, but now he has to bring people to the next step where he has to get them to believe in God again. Okay, so then Shankaracharya comes and he says, no, the Vedas is perfect. Follow the Vedas. But he puts an impersonal realization on the Vedas that yes, there is a God, but God has no form. God is just energy. So Brahman is the truth. Because these materialistic people, they can't conceive that there is a personal God, when they have a very low, ignorant consciousness. So he slowly bring them. Okay, there's God, but it's just energy. So it's sort of easier to accept that than God as a person for many people. And then after Shankaracharya came, then the Vaishnav great teachers appeared, devotee great teachers, like Madhvacharya, Ramanujacharya, Nimbakacharya, Vishnu Swami, and then finally Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So each one of them presented a little bit better philosophy than the previous one. Advaitavad, Dvaitavad, Dvaitavad, so there's different philosophies. And each one was a bit better, improvement on the previous one. And then the final and best one, perfect one, it was given by Lord Chaitanya 500 years ago, and that's called Achinsya Bheda Tattva, that we are simultaneously one with God and different to God. So how can we be simultaneously one with God and different at the same time? Because we're one in... How are we one with God? We're one in quality, and we're different in quantity. Just like we are eternal and God is eternal. God is full of consciousness, we are full of consciousness. God is full of bliss, our nature is full of bliss. So qualitatively we're the same. Sat, Chit, Ananda. Have you heard of those words before? Sat, Chit, Ananda. Sat means eternal, Chit means knowledge, and Ananda means bliss. So that's the nature of God, and that's our nature too. We're just a tiny part of God. So qualitatively, we're the same with God, but quantitatively, we're different. We're very small, and He is very great. And the examples, analogies are given, just like the ocean and the drop of water. It's the same, isn't it? The drop of water of the ocean is the same as the ocean. Who can deny that? It's H2O plus salt, right? It's the same thing. But the quantity is different. You can put a drop of water on your head. You try to put the Pacific Ocean on your head. Good luck. Or the sun planet and the sunshine. It's the same. But the quantity is different. If the sunshine comes in your room, no problem. If the sun planet comes in your room,
big problem.
You don't have a room anymore. No more room. It's burnt, everything's burnt to a crisp. So the quantity is different. So this is the perfect philosophy, final philosophy, complete philosophy given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that simultaneously we are one with God and different to God at the same time, like that. Inconceivably, we're one and different like that. So that's explaining a little bit about the Mayavadi sannyasis and the Vedanta Sutra. So let's just continue on now with the purport. Bob, do you want to read a bit now? The Mayavadi sannyasis.
Yeah, also study the Vedanta Sutras, but use their own commentary called Shariraka Bhasya, written by
Shankaracharya. That's the one we were talking about. The incarnation of Lord Shiva. Yeah.
The students of the Bhagavata school are engaged in a devotional service of the Lord, according to
Pancharatriki
regulations, and therefore the Vaishnava sannyasis have multiple engagements in the transcendental service of the Lord.
I'll just give you a little point about that. Pancharatriki, what's Pancharatriki regulations? That's all the rules that are surrounding worshipping the deities. So here we're talking about like temple worship, and worshipping the Lord in his personal form as the deity in the temple. So there's a whole lot of regulations about that, how to serve the deity, like how to cook for the deity, how to serve food to the deity, how to give the deity a bath, how to dress the deity, how to sing for the deity, how to, make a temple for the deity, all these kind of things that you're not supposed to, you have to be clean before you go into the deity room. You're not supposed to fart. Don't fart when you go in the deity room, or don't burp, all these kind of things like that. There's all these kind of rules, do's and don'ts, all surrounding that.
You have to have a shower.
Yeah, you have to have a shower, put on clean clothes.
You take a
wake up
permission to
early
go
in
in.
the morning, like that. So there's a whole lot of rules about that. So that's what the Vaishnavas or Bhagavad school, what we follow that. We follow the rules about that, worshipping the deity. Yep. So immediately we have a personal form of the Lord we can direct our senses to. So for us, it's very easy. So deity worship makes it very easy for us because we can see the deity, we can touch the deity, we can smell the deity, we can cook for the deity and clean the temple, we can build a temple for the deity and cook for and everything, make garlands, grow flowers, 24/7. We've got engagements, straight away we've got engagements. We can focus our mind and senses very easily. We can picture in our mind what the deity looks like, everything like that. So that's making it very helpful for us. And actually, that verse I directed you towards, 12th chapter, text 5, which says the impersonal path is very difficult. Actually, in the purport, Prabhupada explains about deity worship and how deity worship works, what it's all about. So you can read about it there, about deity worship. And that we should never think that the deity is just a statue. It might appear to be made of stone or wood or metal, but we should never think this is just an idol or a statue. It's actually an incarnation of the Lord in material elements. Because don't forget that everything is Krishna's energy, right? He says later on, we haven't come to that, in the 7th chapter, but I have directed you towards that before, that he says, my energies is earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, ego, and the soul, like that. So these are all different energies of God. So Krishna, are you saying that Krishna can't appear in his energy? Why not? Krishna can't appear in earth. Krishna can't appear in water or fire. Why not? It's his energy.
He did in the past. He appeared in the earth.
Is it a fact that the Supreme Being can't enter into his energy and transform that so-called matter into spirit? Is there anything the Supreme can't do?
No.
Can we say the Supreme Being can't come to the material world?
Can.
He can't appear in a form that we can see with these material eyes. I mean, he has a spiritual form, but can you see his original spiritual form with your existing eyes that you have now?
No.
You can't see spirit.
No one can.
Spirit has a form, a spiritual form, but you can't see it with the material eyes. So you need your spiritual eyes again, purified eyes. Like you'll be reading later on in the 11th chapter, Krishna says to Arjuna in the 11th chapter, when he shows the universal form, he says, behold, Arjuna, my universal form, I'll give you divine eyes. Krishna says to Arjuna, I will give you divine eyes. So that's something that has to be given to us. If you want to see Krishna's spiritual form, you need some qualifications. You need some mercy from the Lord to be able to see his spiritual form. But until you can see that, out of his mercy and love for us, he allows you to see him and when he appears in material elements. But when he appears in those material elements, that's not material elements anymore. And how do we know the deity is not just a stone or a wood or metal anymore? Because there's many historic histories of the deities talking with the devotee. And as you know, a piece of wood or a metal or a statue doesn't talk, but the deities talk to the devotees. And there's many cases of the deity walking off the altar, and meaning miles. I mean, there's one deity still there, you can go in India, called Sakshi Gopal.
Sakshi Gopala, yeah.
Yeah, that Sakshi Gopal walked from North India to South India. Walked from North India to South India, left the altar, and not only walked a few meters, but walked all the way to South India and back. Actually, not South India, sorry, East India.
Yeah.
Walked from north to east.
We did that play on the Sakshi Gopala on the Janmashtami.
Yeah. He bore a witness for his devotee. He was called Witness Gopal.
And he said, I can't walk with you. I'm going to walk behind you.
Yeah.
And then walk behind. And then after that, he didn't hear the bells and that. He turned around and it's become a deity.
Yes. So, but the deity, see, Krishna is not stupid. So he reciprocates with us according to our faith. So if you think the deity is a statue, he'll always be a statue for you. He'll never be anything more than a statue. But if you have faith based on this knowledge, and through practicing serving him, if you develop real love for him, if you develop real love and faith in the deity, you can actually get to a point where the deity will be like any other person, will talk to you and walk with you and do so many things. And there's many amazing pastimes of deities like Jagannath, famous Lord Jagannath and Jagannath Puri. He did amazing pastimes of Jagannath, and Lord Nrsingadev in Mayapur, incredible pastimes of Lord Nrsingadev. Well, Lord Nrsingadev is this half man, half lion form of Krishna, like really fierce with big sharp teeth and everything like that, and sharp nails and everything. And one of the priests was very scared of him. And one time he was putting the Lord to rest at night, putting him to sleep at night. And then he heard some noise on the altar. And he was already scared. He became even more frightened. And then he just hurriedly left and went off to bed. And in the middle of the night, he woke up because he was on a bunk bed. He was on the top of the top bunk. And this is only going back like 20 years ago or something. It's not like millions of years ago. This is only, the guy's still alive today, less than 20 years ago. He was on the top bunk bed and it started to move around in the night. And he thought, the guy on the bottom bed had got up. But he opened his eyes and it wasn't the guy on the bottom bed. It was Lord Nrsingadev.
Wow.
It was Lord Nrsingadev was on top of the bed, on top of him, and he put his hands on his chest of the devotee, on the priest, put his hands on the chest of the devotee and said, basically, he didn't say it like this, but he said, basically, my dear devotee, you don't have to worry about me. You're my devotee. I'm not your enemy. I'm not going to hurt you. I love you. You don't have to have any fear when you're worshipping me. I'm not going to hurt you. And then the Lord disappeared. And the guy was just completely, I can't imagine what he felt like after having the Lord right there with his hands on his chest. But he showed the devotees afterwards, the Lord's handprints were still, the marks were still on his chest. There's evidence that he wasn't just, having a hallucination. He hadn't had too much pee or something or marijuana or whatever, but actually had the handprints of the Lord was on his chest. And but he was running around like the temple room like a madman afterwards, because obviously, that's pretty ecstatic, thing to happen to you. So like that, there's so many pastimes of the deities, acting, such a personal way. So that's here something about that. So that's Vaishnavas generally follow rules, surrounding that, worshipping deities. And that helps us so much to progress in spiritual life. That's so much. I mean, look at Christianity. There's no deity worship in Christianity, right? And how much service they do. If they're lucky, once a week on a Sunday for maybe 1 or 2 hours, say a few prayers, and then that's it. And then back to watching the rugby and having a barbie, if you're lucky. Some are, really full on, and they might study the Bible and do more. So there's a few, but the vast majority, if you're lucky, is once a week for a couple of hours. But as soon as you have a deity, you got, as much as you want. You can have 18 hours a day, 7 days a week, if you want. Because Prabhupada points out, from when the deity wakes up at 4 o'clock in the morning till he goes to bed at like 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, the devotee can be engaged in his service. And that's 7 days a week service. The temple's never closed. It's open 365 days. Even Christmas, Boxing Day, Easter, the temple's open. It never, ever closes. Krishna's being served every day from when the devotee starts off to when he drops down dead. The devotee is serving him 24/7. So you've served him from 4 in the morning till 10 o'clock at night, then you go to sleep. Do you know what you're probably going to be thinking about?
The deity.
Yeah, you've been serving the deity from 4 in the morning till 10 at night for years. What are you going to be thinking about at night? You're going to be thinking about the deity. Yeah. So you're absorbed. That's called samadhi. That's called trance. That's the perfection of yoga. That's the state. Well, the ultimate point to come to for anyone is to be completely absorbed in thoughts of the Supreme Being, thoughts of the Lord. And deity worship is an amazing way of doing that. You can just become so absorbed. You're singing for the deity, or dressing the deity, cooking for the deity, cleaning for the deity, making money for the deity, fixing the temple for the deity. You can become completely absorbed. There's women in India, they fall in love with Krishna in the form of a baby called Bal Gopal, Ladu Gopal. And they never go anywhere without Bal Gopal.
They will take a little basket with them.
Yeah, a little basket.
All the time carry with them. Yeah, Ladu Gopal.
Even they come to our temple, New Gokula, and they bring Bal Gopal with them. It's like, because he is their child. He is their child. If they go, some of them will even purchase a separate seat for Bal Gopal, for the deity, especially if some of them have a really big Bal Gopal, and they'll spend another $1,000 to get a seat for their deity, because they don't go anywhere without that deity, because they're absorbed in the mood of a mother, and then the Lord is my child, like that, and whatever they cook, they offer it to Gopal first, and then they eat. That. So
my mom has got the same at home, and then she making that, first thing in the morning, 4:30 get up and all that. She making the puris, and one day she get angry, and then she said that I'm giving you puri, you never eat that. What's wrong with you? And then she was angry with the Bal Gopal, and then closing the eyes, and then when she opened the eyes, and then my brother's daughter, she was 1, and she was eating 10 meters away and eating the puri.
Wow. Yeah. Mystical.
Yeah, that's mystical. Where is the puri? Once gone. There was puri, there's the one missing. Yeah. Where's the puri? And then she's sitting on the corner there eating the puri. When she came and get her, we don't know, but it's like that. She just get angry. Why don't you even take once? I'm giving you every day. She's just oh.
So very, very personal relationship. Very intimate.
Very, yeah.
Very intimate, very personal. And the Lord loves that. The Lord loves even being chastised by his loving devotees, because it's with love.
That's right. Love. That's love.
So it's very special. Yeah, okay. So let's continue. Okay, Gulshan, you want to have a read?
Yeah, the Vaishnava sannyasi have nothing to do with the material activity, and yet they perform various activities in the devotional service to the Lord. But Mayavadi sannyasi engage in the studies of Sankhya and Vedanta, and speculation cannot relish the transcendental service of Lord, because their studies become very tedious. They sometimes becoming tired of Brahma speculation, and thus they take shelter of Bhagavatam without proper understanding. Consequently, their study of Srimad Bhagavatam become troublesome. Dry speculation and impersonal interpretation by artificial means are all useless for Mayavadi sannyasis. The Vaishnava sannyasi who are engaged in the devotional service are happy in the discharge of their transcendental duties, and they have the guarantee of ultimate entrance into kingdom of God. The Mayavadi sannyasis sometimes fall down from the path of self-realization and again enter into the material activities of
Philanthropic,
and
altruistic.
altruist nature, which are nothing but material engagement. Therefore, the conclusion is that those who are engaged in Krishna consciousness activities are better situated than sannyasi engaged in simple speculation about what is Brahman and what is not Brahman, although they too come to Krishna consciousness after many births.
So there, Krishna's bringing, Prabhupada's bringing up again what Krishna's saying, that eventually they'll come to the same conclusion, but after many births. So it's a very slow, painful road. So if we're smart, if we're really smart, we'll just take to the short path, the quick and easy and happy path, which bhakti is. It's a very quick and happy path. As it's saying here, it's a guarantee that you're going to reach the ultimate, going back to Godhead, to the spiritual world. And there's less chance of falling down, even if a devotee falls down, which sometimes it happens from Krishna consciousness. But the difference is the Lord never forgets the service the devotee rendered, even for a short period, and the Lord will make an arrangement to bring that person back, whether it's later in this life or in the next life. But they'll continue where they left off. That's the difference. So therefore, chapter 2, text 40 says that on this path of bhakti, there's no loss, no diminution, and a little advancement protects one from the most dangerous kind of fear. What's the most dangerous kind of fear for a human being? Is after this life falling down to the lower species, like animal body, bird body, fish body, like that. Every human being should be afraid of that. You know, people are so ignorant, they're not even afraid of losing the human form of life and going to a lower species. But bhakti protects you from falling down into those lower species.
I think a human life is very hard. Like in the chapter 14, it says that it takes a long time to get a human life. And what a waste.
Yeah.
They didn't realize that.
Yeah.
After so many births and all, you get a human life, and then if you don't do that study.
But the difference is if a Mayavadi falls down, which it's highly likely because their lifestyle is very tiresome, boring and dry, and not much juice, not much taste, because there's not much relationships. It's just talking dry philosophy, what's Brahman and what's not Brahman. So it's highly likely they will fall down. And then, see, they've already given up materialistic activities, but they're trying to go into spiritual life. But because they haven't accepted the personal form of the Lord and just going after energy, realizing, then where would they fall back to what? What do they fall back? Mentioned here, philanthropic and altruistic. Means welfare activities. Do you know any welfare workers? You know, people like, Save the Whales, Build a Hospital, the Blind Foundation, the Cancer Society. So in many cases, a lot of these people, the welfare workers, They could have been like these big Mayavadi philosophers in the past life, and they took birth as a welfare worker. You know, because in the heart, the soul is yearning for, like I said, service. It's the nature of the soul to have loving relationships and service. So deep down, we're searching for service. If you don't find service for Krishna, you're going to look for service somewhere else. And this is where they find it. I'll serve the Cancer Society. I'll serve the Save the Whales, save the dogs, save the kangaroos, save the koalas, everything, so many welfare organizations. So the soul is searching for service. But if you don't find the real service, the eternal service for Krishna, then you just look for some temporary service. But you can't avoid service because it's the nature of the soul to serve. And that's how we taste that loving relationships, through giving service, receiving service. But that's a real fall down, just to go, you've tried to realize God, but you ended up falling down to saving homeless dogs, or, people with cancer or whatever like that. It's just some mundane, materialistic welfare activity. And then that's not perfect. I mean, you say, well, that's a good thing. What's wrong with that? Doing some welfare activities. What's wrong with the welfare activities? They're trying to help others to be more happy or whatever like that. So then what is wrong with that? I mean, I'm not saying it's bad, but it could be better. So what's not good about that? Any material welfare activities? I mean, it's nice. They're trying to do some service. They're trying to help others. That's nice. But what's the limitation bad with that? Any kind of material welfare directed towards the body.
They think that they are doing.
Well, the thing they're doing it, yeah, that's there. But another thing.
It's also
how long is the benefit going to be to whoever you're trying to help?
Not long.
Not long. Like if I feed a poor person, if I pay $5 to feed a poor person, or 10 poor people or whatever like that for a day, I mean, how long is the benefit going to last?
A day?
Yeah, one day, or until the hunger comes, maybe after 4 or 6 hours, right? They're going to get hungry again in 4 or 6 hours. Then what happens? So you've just delayed their suffering for 4 to 6 hours.
And it also trapped, doesn't it, because of in karma and everything like that. We're doing good karma, so it keeps us trapped. Right.
Yeah, you're doing good karma, which leads to more good karma, which leads to more good karma. But eventually, I mean, if you do like that, if you do material welfare activities, at the most, you might go, when you die, after giving so many charities and benefits, you might go to heaven in the next life. And you'll live there for 10,000 years, but then after that's finished, then you fall back down again. So you haven't really helped yourself permanently either. You haven't helped the other guy more than 4 or 6 hours or whatever it's going to be. And you haven't really helped yourself either. Your good karma is just going to take you to a better place for a short time, and then you're going to come back down again and go through it all again. So it's really lose-lose. It's really lose-lose. And, even if you can help the person fix their cancer, but then they're going to get something else, or the cancer will come back later, or I hope yours doesn't, Gulshan. And, or they're going to get something else. Or
what? I mentioned that.
Do you know why I've got a hat on? Do you know why I've got? It's not because it's cold. I got bitten by a white-tailed spider, and my
white-tail?
top part of my head's all blistered up and.
I was thinking that why do you put the hat on? It's summer.
So I didn't want to gross you out with seeing my face.
No, it's actually. You can call Deepa. Her husband is in the hospital.
Yeah, I know. So there's always something. Even you fix up something, the misery is gonna pop out somewhere else. So there's nothing you can really do. I mean, the real solution, if you want to know what the ultimate welfare is, you've got to find out the process of how to get that soul out of the material world. You got to liberate that soul, free the soul from the material world. Then you've really done welfare. If you can get that soul, help that soul to go back to the spiritual world, is never going to be hungry again, never going to get thirsty again, never going to have any bodily problems, never going to have any mental problems, is never going to get any problems from other living things. Like I got from other living things. I got suffering from another living thing, right? A little spider. I thought, hey, I went through Australia for 7 years. I never got bitten by a snake or a spider. Now I've come to New Zealand. I'm safe. But I came back to New Zealand, I got bitten here. That's crazy. But you can't escape, you can't escape. But in the spiritual world, from other living things, in New Zealand, in some places now, recently, there's been floods. So that's like natural calamities from the demigods. But in the spiritual world, there's no calamities. There's no hurricanes, no tsunamis, no tidal waves, all these kind of things.
No COVID, no corona.
No COVID. Yeah, there's no COVID. You don't have to work hard to pay the bills in the spiritual world. That solves all the problems. So that's the real welfare. Is if you're smart, you want to. I don't want to help you for just 4 hours or 4 months or 4 years. I want to help you forever. I want to help you forever. Real love. That's real love. So, of course, what you can do is you help their body and side by side help the soul. And like one good example is prasadam. See, prasadam will keep you full for 4 or 6 hours, your body. So it's material welfare. But it's also, when you take prasadam, it's awakening your love for God. It's burning up your bad karma. It's immunizing you from all the past sins and all horrible things. So you're getting benefits on both levels, materially and spiritually. So that's a really good thing to do. You can help people materially, bodily, but you got to help them spiritually at the same time. Otherwise, if it's just material and no spiritual benefit, then have you really helped the person?
I was helping one person there. He always come in front of a restaurant and pick up the leftover cigarettes. And one day I offer him a prasadam. He's just so angry with me, and he doesn't come anymore. I just want to give him a prasadam because I just feel like it. And then he just come in the shorts and no shirt, and always pick up the little buds of the cigarette.
Yeah.
He just give me a very, very guilty look, and how dare you?
Well, he's cleaning the cigarette butts out of the front of the bhakti tree.
Yeah, it's like on the driveway.
See, Jagannath will take that as he's doing service by cleaning the front of the temple.
Because sometimes people sit on the our driveway, and then having a smoke. Yeah. So he just come and I offer him a halwa.
Yeah, so
and
he
just
doesn't
gets
know
so
that.
angry.
Yeah, so he's doing service by cleaning the cigarette butts from the front of the temple. So he's actually very fortunate.
Yeah,
it reminds me of one time we were doing chanting on the street in Queen Street in Auckland, and you have these people, homeless people on the side of the road, and they have a little pot, put the coins in there, and the little sign usually saying, "I'm homeless, can you help me?" and like that. So I was at the back of the line. There was about 20 Hare Krishnas there singing Hare Krishna. I was at the back. So one of the persons at the front put a flyer with the Hare Krishna chant on it, and put a little bliss ball light there in her pot, which she wanted money. But because that wasn't what she wanted, she was already looking really unhappy. But after the devotee put the flyer with the Hare Krishna chant on it and the prasadam in it, she looked more unhappy.
Why?
Because that's not what she wanted. That she has got these desires, and that was going against what her desires were. So actually, it was good for her to get that, but she couldn't see the positivity in it, the benefit of it. She saw it as a bad thing.
All she wanted money and go and get the snake.
Actually, the devotee wasn't thinking very much either, because they should know that's not going to, she's not going to take that in a positive way. So any eyes at the back, I saw, oh my God, she looks more unhappy now than before. And she looks so sad, oh my God. And then I had a coin in my pocket, $1 or $2. And I knew that's what she wanted. And I put that in her bowl.
And the face lights up.
I came close to her to put that in her bowl. I was looking right in her face when I put that in her bowl. And she looked up. And she had, from looking so depressed, she had a beautiful smile on her face. And she looked me right in the eye and said, Hare Krishna.
No.
For me, that just made my heart smile. I was in ecstasy that I did something that probably the first time in her life she chanted Hare Krishna. And I have the faith that she's just by those 2 words destroyed the reactions to everything she's done in the material world for millions of lifetimes. And she's just got her ticket out of the material world. She's going back home, back to Godhead, whether it's in this life or the next one or in 5 more, but she's on her way from now. From that point, she's on her way back home, back to Godhead, because she's chanted Hare Krishna. And the Lord says, even if someone chants my name once, that attracts me to them. That attracts my attention, and I will help them from that point. So that's all we need to do. That's real welfare. Even if you get them to chant once, even if you get them to take prasadam once, or even to touch a Bhagavad Gita or read it or whatever. Prabhupada said even if they read 1 verse of the Bhagavad Gita, they will get eternal benefit. Or even 1 line, or even half a line. And he even said even if they read 1 word, even if they read 1 word of Bhagavad Gita, any connection with Krishna, and that's real welfare like that. So that's what we want to try to do. But a lot of these Mayavadi philosophers, they fall down from that dry path and end up becoming material welfare workers. So that's said to be often the result of that. So
I need to go to the restaurant now.
Yeah, I was just going to say we have to wrap up over time again. Okay.
Ape, look after yourself, mate.
Thank you.
I'm worried about your head.
Anyway, I'm not going to give anyone a kiss right now, because if I do, they'll probably die from all the poison in me.
I'd like that. I hope you got some good news for us next week.
Yeah, no, it's all right. It's not life-threatening.
All mercy of Krishna. He will be fine.
It's all mercy.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.